The most disrespectful moments in NBA history. In today's video, we go over the most disrespectful moments in NBA history. But before we start, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Number 6. DeAndre Jordan's dunk on Brandon. During his prime, DeAndre Jordan was a force to be reckoned with. At 6'11" and weighing over 260 pounds, he was a premier lob threat, while also being a very dominant rebounder. In both the 2013 and 2014 season, he averaged over 13 rebounds in a single season. And to add to his dominance, he was a good shot blocker that protected the rim with the best of them. But he was more known for his explosive dunks that shook the rim night in and night out. And believe it or not, his vertical jump wasn't all that impressive. He measured a 30-inch vertical in the combine. But what's clear is that he's more of a in-game leaper, to say the least. And on one fateful night, he proved that to be even more true. On March 10th, 2013, the Clippers had a comfortable lead in the second quarter against the Detroit Pistons. Former Clippers star Chris Paul set up Jordan with an alley-oop pass normally reserved for Blake Griffin. Then Jordan, already rolling to the basket at full speed, rises up and extends over Pistons guard Brandon Knight, who was knocked to the floor. The astounding dunk also led to one of the greatest facial expressions we've ever seen come from an NBA player after the bench exploded. But honestly, Brandon stood no chance against the monster dunker DeAndre Jordan, as the catch and dunk made it almost impossible to defend for the much smaller guard. The crowd obviously went wild, and the Clippers went on to make the playoffs and defeated the Golden State Warriors before being eliminated against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference semifinals. But if you thought that was disrespectful, wait until you see what's coming up next. Number 5. Harden crosses Johnson. On February 28, 2018, James Harden faced off against the Los Angeles Clippers. Harden started off the game fast and scored 17 of the 25 points the Houston Rockets scored in the first quarter. But with a little over 1 minute left in the first quarter, James Harden brought the ball up the court as usual before sizing up Clippers defender Wesley Johnson. And as Harden decided to go left, he felt Johnson on his hip. So then he went on to perform one of the most devastating snatchbacks in NBA history, which left Johnson flat on the floor. But that's not even what made it go viral on social media, because while Johnson was on the ground, Harden decided to stare down the fallen Clipper before draining a three-pointer. Harden claims that's not what happened. Quote, "I was just trying to figure out what he was doing," Harden said. "I didn't know. I was looking at him and he was looking at me." Harden said, "I was thinking, what are you doing? I was going to shoot it, but I was waiting to figure out what was going on. I was confused, and then I shot it." Whether you believe what Harden said or not, there's no denying what a great move he pulled off. But even though you would think Johnson would be embarrassed, he reacted in more of a professional manner than many of us would. Quote, "I was just thinking, next play," he said according to ESPN. "People oohed and awed, but it's just on to the next play. Stuff like that happens," Johnson added. "Somebody gets dunked on, somebody falls down, it's gonna go viral. Social media is undefeated right now." Well, he is right about one thing. Social media is undefeated. It's been 4 years since the incident occurred, and it's still being brought up today with regularity. But so is this next incident. Number 4. Dame game winner. On April 23, 2019, the Portland Trail Blazers faced off against the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 5 of Round 1 in the NBA playoffs. Portland led the series 3-1 playing at home. Though the Thunder had been favored going into the series, no game since the series opener had been close at all. This one was, though. Portland and OKC were separated by only 2 points headed into the fourth quarter. The game was back and forth throughout the quarter, but remained intact with 40 seconds remaining as Thunder All-Star Paul George hit a mid-range jumper to put his team ahead 115-113. At that point, Lillard had scored 45 points on 17 of 31 shooting. It looked as if his enormous effort might go to waste. But on the next possession, Lillard scored his 46th and 47th points, converting a layup to tie the game with 33 seconds remaining. Oklahoma City's other former All-Star, Russell Westbrook, was working on a 29-point outing. He unfortunately missed a layup with 19 seconds left in the ballgame, leaving the score knotted at 115. The Blazers had a timeout, but head coach Terry Stotts left the ball in Lillard's hands for the final possession. That's when Lillard slowly dribbled out the clock near the half-court logo, waited for the 3-second mark, stepped to his right, and launched a near 37-foot three-pointer over Paul George's outreached arms and drained the shot. And to make matters worse, he waved bye-bye to the Thunder's bench, which was an extremely disrespectful way to close out a series. In a press conference after the game, Thunder star Paul George had this to say about the game winner. Quote, "That was a bad shot." George infamously claimed, "I don't care what anybody says. That's a bad shot." While social media definitely had a good time bashing his answer, the Blazers went on to defeat the Denver Nuggets in 7 games in the second round of the playoffs, before getting swept by Curry and the Golden State Warriors in the conference finals. But Damian Lillard's crazy shot and celebration is still one of the most disrespectful moments ever. Number 3. LeBron's dunk on Jason Terry. Now let's talk about what LeBron James did to an opponent back when he was in Miami. Jason Terry, who was a 19-year-old NBA veteran at the time, was playing for the Boston Celtics in March of 2013. After a turnover in the Celtics backcourt, Terry found himself all alone in a 3-on-1 situation in a game against LeBron James and the Miami Heat. Terry did all he could do, but probably wishes he would have just gotten out of the way. As the Heat made a couple of quick passes, Terry found himself in the paint as James took the pass. James drove the lane as Terry, all alone, made an attempt to stop James. Instead, James had one of the most famous dunks in his career when he took the alley-oop pass and leaped over Terry for the dunk. And after the emphatic dunk, King James just looked down at Terry, and that's what made it even more disrespectful. But James showed no mercy. See, back then the Celtics were known as a chatty and cocky team, especially Jason Terry. And after the game, this is what LeBron said about it, quote, "It's one of the better ones, and the fact that it happened to JT makes it even that much sweeter, because we all know JT talks too much sometimes, and I'm glad it happened to him." Yeah, it's safe to say he really enjoyed posterizing him. But Terry sure didn't. In fact, he said jumping with LeBron James was a terrible idea. Quote, "What made me jump is what I'm trying to figure out," Terry said on Bleacher Report's Untold Stories. There's no, even if you did jump. And I jumped, man, and he lifted me on his knee and I was still going up with him. I was elevated. I was in the rim. Terry said even weeks after the dunk, his phone was blowing up with people checking in on him. Quote, "For 3 weeks, I was checking my phone and people were sending me messages. Man, you okay? Like numbers I haven't heard from in 8 years, Terry said. They even said on Wikipedia, they said it was my death day and had the date and everything on it. Sheesh, that was pretty harsh." Number 2. Reggie Miller. One of the most disrespectful moments has to come from 1995 at Madison Square Garden. It was the final seconds of a huge playoff game between the Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. The Pacers trailed by 6 points with 8.9 seconds remaining. In most cases, this lead is safe, but not this time. Reggie Miller, the great Hall of Fame sharpshooter, scored 8 points in the final seconds of the game to give Indiana the lead. After putting the Pacers in front, Miller turned to Knicks superfan Spike Lee and gave him a two-handed choke gesture. But many wonder what Spike Lee did to deserve that blatant disrespect from the great. And he recently answered that question in the 2021 playoffs when appearing on the Dan Patrick Show. Quote, "It started with the Cheryl chants, and Cheryl was better, and that's kind of what started it," Miller said, referencing his older sister, who is one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time. And when asked what exactly Lee said to get under his skin, he said, quote, "He's like, put a wig on. Cheryl Miller's out here playing." And I'm just like, is he really saying this? Is he really saying this? And I was like, okay, if you're going to talk, if you're going to pay all this money for expensive seats, you're going to be part of the game, Spike. And I made him part of the game. And even though Reggie Miller is long retired from the NBA and he and Lee seem to have buried the hatchet, the former Pacer guard still can't help taking shots at the director. During the 2021 playoffs, Miller called Lee a fair-weather fan when he left a Knicks loss to the Atlanta Hawks early. Wow, Reggie Miller really took that personally. And luckily for us basketball fans, it inspired him to perform one of the most disrespectful and iconic gestures we have ever seen. But speaking of iconic, I don't think there's anything more iconic than what's coming up next. Number 1, Iverson and Ty Lue. On June 6, 2021, Allen Iverson finished the game with 48 points to lead the Philadelphia 76ers to a 107-101 overtime win over the Los Angeles Lakers in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Iverson also added 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and a ridiculous 5 steals on 18 of 41 shooting from the field. On the opposing team, Shaquille O'Neal had 44 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists to lead the Lakers. The game marked the second time in NBA Finals history that 2 opposing players scored 40 or more points in the same game. Iverson scored 7 points in the overtime period to send the Sixers to victory. In overtime, Iverson used his deadly step back to hit a fadeaway shot over a falling Ty Lue to give the Sixers a 2-point lead. After draining the shot, Iverson stepped over Lue for one of the most iconic and disrespectful moments in sports history. And even though Ty Lue was on the opposite end of the viral moment, he still claims that play saved his career. Quote, "Iverson making it to the finals really saved my career. Without Iverson, there probably wouldn't be me. If Milwaukee had beat Philly, I wouldn't have played. So that could have possibly been my last year in the NBA. People don't understand that. The funny part about it, people think he crossed me over. I fell down and then he stepped. I contested his shot, and I'm walking backwards, and I step on his foot and I fall, and he stepped over me, and they make a big deal out of it. Fast forward to today, and they are actually good friends. And on a podcast in 2020, Allen Iverson even showed Lou respect by saying he was a dog and was causing him many problems defensively. They didn't have a relationship prior to the incident, but now they are forever linked because of it.